Hello, folks. Today we're going to talk about the basics of getting started in spirituality. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of questions about how to get started in the communities. Some people want to astral travel. That seems to be the hot topic for the last year or so. Others want to get into past life regression, and others just want to get into mindfulness or understand how to have more mindfulness in their day-to-day lives. But no matter whether you want to be more present in your day-to-day life or you want to get into being a spiritual practitioner, we all need to begin in the same place. So this is what has worked for me and several of my clients and students over the years. There are two stages, and they are both built on the same essence of protecting yourself and your energy. And the way we protect ourselves is by knowing ourselves. Now, it's important to hear that again. From the ancient Greek philosophers of Thales and Plato speaking about knowing thyself, to Jesus instructing us that the kingdom of heaven is within each of us, it is important to take this central concept on board. As humans, we are used to living in a physical world, yet the journey into spirituality is much wider and deeper than the physical world can hold. In this sense, in the world of subtle energy, the laws of physics, which are fueled by motion, don't apply. Spirituality is governed by metaphysical laws, specifically the laws of correspondence and resonance, which are driven by intention. This is why knowing yourself is a big part of protecting yourself, because you know your own basic intentions behind everything. With that, let's get into the stages and steps of getting into your spiritual journey. I am the Taoist. Welcome to my channel, Energy Pathworking, where we discuss the theory and practice of spiritual energy across the planes. Stage 1 is all about building mindfulness and presence. Those who want to hurry up and begin practicing advanced studies would do well to listen to this part, for it will become as much a part of your practice as the rest of your rituals will. The first step is building mindfulness. Mindfulness is the act of identifying the difference between conscious thought and intention from unconscious thought and intention. When I first went to a Buddhist temple to experience Zazen some 20 years ago, I wish they had told me this. There are plenty of resources out there on mindfulness. You may already have your favorite. However, this is what I tell all my clients and students. When you're sitting to meditate, it doesn't matter whether it's in a chair, on the floor in your living room, or wherever. All you need to do is make sure you are undisturbed and comfortable. Close your eyes, begin your breath work, and clear your mind. Of course, your mind is going to resist. You will think of everything from the most complex thoughts in your life to the simplest. This is because your mind knows you're trying to let go. Every time you have a thought, all I want you to do is imagine a bubble forming around that thought. Just identify it as a thought and then let the bubble float away. Don't try to solve anything, make conclusions about such a thought. Just identify that you had a thought and let it go. This process is the very first step in becoming an observer of yourself. Over time, by identifying thoughts, you'll be able to slip into not having thoughts. You will begin to realize how overcrowded with thought you have been throughout your life. When this realization happens, you will have reached the second step, which is initial awareness. This second step of initial awareness is important because as you continue to observe how often you become clouded with thought, you also begin to realize that some or even many of those thoughts are unnecessary for the situation you're in. This stage of initial awareness shows what the state of presence feels like. Presence is when you're in a moment and only dealing and thinking about the realities of that moment, nothing else. The business, corporate, and sports worlds have rebranded this portion into what is called the flow state, and people spend thousands of dollars on courses from Insta gurus, but you can save yourself a bunch of money by simply realizing how often you're having interruptive thoughts that have nothing to do with the situation you're in. The more often you realize the amount of unnecessary thoughts you have throughout your day, the more you will realize the difference between your authentic self, that is your higher consciousness making decisions in favor of achieving goals regarding situations you're actually in, and your egoic self, where you're getting interruptive emotions and thoughts. This is when you start getting into what is called the ego. Those who have spoken to me before, and maybe I've mentioned it on this channel, but the ego has nothing to do with arrogance or narcissism. It can be a part of it, but the ego is something every single one of us has. It is simply the unconscious intentions, thoughts, and actions that interject themselves throughout our daily lives. Understanding the ego has nothing to do with determining whether one is complete or incomplete. The ego is part of you. You actually need it in your daily life. However, those who live an egoic life are generally less able to focus purely on the moments they are in. However, when a person begins to achieve presence in this initial stage, they just get glimpses of it. They usually want more because it's so peaceful and fulfilling. This is when shadow work and the steps to awakening begin. Shadow work is basically a type of therapy. You can do it through self-inquiry over time, or if you have been through traumatic situations, you can work with a professional. You are basically coming to terms with why and how you do the things you do, and how your egoic self has formed over time. This is when the process of awakening happens. This portion of your spiritual journey is probably the most well documented and talked about. That is because this is where the bulk of your time will be spent. I put this in the step of shadow work because most of awakening has something to do with recognizing, accepting, or managing the ego. If you want to find out more about the awakening process, some great starts are the research and lessons from, for instance, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, or another great resource is Christina Lopez. I will leave some links for some of these in the description. However, the basics of awakening for the ego are as follows. Number 1, you have the trigger. Number 2, the bliss stage. Number 3, the dark night of the soul. Number 4 is the void. Number 5 is where you reach the grounded stage. And number 6 is your realization of purpose. Again, if you want to go into granular detail, there are plenty of resources. But staying within the scope of this video, it is important to note that without understanding mindfulness, initial awareness, and the existence of the ego, you are bound to repeat these 6 steps many times over. Practitioners who work in past life regression will recognize this because repeating these 6 steps is often the reason we are reborn. It's because we are continuing to live out the same egoic habits and have yet to realize our soul's purpose. In other cultures, we call this reincarnation and karma. What happens when you get to stages 5 and 6 is you begin to get glimpses of the next large step, which is full awareness. This means you're able to spend longer and longer periods in the state of awareness, even during complex or emotionally challenging situations. Once this occurs, and almost simultaneously, you can achieve a state of full awareness. You have awakened from the ego. For many people, this is enough. Buddha and Lao Tzu are venerated for having achieved these stages long ago, and simply the serious pursuit of such leads to a much more calm life. What reaching a stage of full awareness and presence does is it allows you to choose your paths in life out of your own thoughts and emotions rather than the lens that has been created for you through your ego. Now, I hope this video helps answer some questions for those wanting to begin their spiritual journey. These steps are just the broad strokes. Again, there are many different resources out there for you to choose from. There are far too many teachers to choose from to include in this video or in the links below. What's important is that you pick someone who resonates with you and makes sense to you. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, or you can contact me through any of the links provided. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how these steps are vital to those who want to move beyond mindfulness and get into spiritual practice, whether that's divination or any of the occult. Thanks for watching my channel, where we talk about spiritual energy across the planes. Until next time.